Okay, well, welcome everybody. My name's Jonathan Knowles, and I'm joined by Jennifer Hewins at the registration's office at RISD, Victoria Bray at the registrar's office at Brown University, and Griffin Van Horn, who's one of the um, instructors at the MAID program. I'm a co-director along with Rich Morales, and just maybe we'll just get started. Next slide. So we're going to talk about the program itself, its highlights, the curriculum, some of our current and past student profiles, and then probably most importantly, the application process for you all. Next slide. Um, we are a joint degree between the two institutions. And basically you get the best of both worlds. And I'll just kind of zero in on the highlighted portion of the text, in that we focus on learning to leverage all of the intelligence in the room to solve important problems. In other words, you're getting jointly taught courses between RISD professors and Brown professors, and you're learning from each other and the guest critics who are engaging you during the year-long program. Next slide. Again, with the best of both worlds, it's a joint program between RISD and Brown Engineering. We have some spectacular facilities, Brown's brand new physics building, RISD's Nature Lab, and RISD Museum, the Brown Design Workshop, which is located in the engineering building, and then the multiple diverse departments at both institutions, between fine arts and design, and of course, the suite of courses available in engineering. Next slide. So maybe Griffin, you could talk about the values of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize if there's some background noise. My office is directly adjacent to the Brown Design Workshop that Jonathan just mentioned. So I'm currently watching a number of students take some tool training workshops right now. So it might be a little bit noisy. Our values at the heart of the program is design and tech collaboration. So as Jonathan said, learning to leverage all the intelligences in the room. What that means is creating synergistic, interdisciplinary collaboration. So we select a cohort that represents a diversity of skills, and that's intentional in order to foster those collaborative opportunities. Design research. We talk a lot about design and engineering lenses, and our goal is to allow you to learn from different learn about different lenses, so you can apply those as you research your problems and develop your solutions to those in a qualitative and quantitative way. Design communication and interaction. It's, as much as we would love to create designs that can speak for themselves, it's important to be able to communicate your intentions, and that takes a variety of different pathways, with the deliverables for each Core Studio course embodying different kind of methods of communication, from papers, research papers to exhibitions. Then iteration and implementation. I'll talk a bit more about that in future slides. Yeah, so the core of MAID, we really focus on real world design cycles rather than just kind of ideation or just testing. Our goal is to have you go through an entire design cycle, including ideation, prototyping, implementation, testing, receiving feedback, and then starting over. And some of those will be kind of small scale at the beginning of the program, design sprints, engineering sprints. And as you go through the program, those will take different forms and get larger and get more iterative, where you're kind of incorporating more feedback and continuing on the same project, which culminates in the spring, the largest project that you'll work on in MAID, very independent, still collaborative, but you're taking everything you've learned from those smaller sprints, in a larger iterative design cycle. Next slide, please. I think this one is also me. Yeah, so we have 4 core. I'll let you read the details of the different courses, but the basic structure of the program is, in the summer, you're taking Make and Measure, which is just an intensive summer course. You're not taking any other electives. You're also taking the design communication seminar, which is split in the summer and winter. In the fall, you're taking Iterate with Intention, and as well as 2 electives. Then
those electives are either at Brown or at RISD.
Great point. Yes, as a MAID student, you're enrolled in both organizations, both institutions. So you have access to both course catalogs. In the winter is you're taking a winter session course, essentially, an immersive, where we'll focus on design communication and do site visits. We've historically done those in Providence and in Boston. Then in the spring, you'll be taking implementation and 2 electives as well. So 4 total electives, and then a summer course and a seminar course that's split over the summer and winter. Okay, yeah, I will let you kind of, I won't go into too much detail about the different skill areas listed on the screen, but this is just to kind of show that we have a diverse range of experience of our cohort, and that's supported by faculty with a very diverse range of expertise as well. Our studios are taught by both Brown and RISD professors, generally co-taught, and so they bring a really amazing industry experience and academic experience into the classroom, in some of the areas that you see on the screen, and we'll talk a bit more about specific faculty members a bit later.
This is a very long list.
Yeah, I think I can just kind of, the important thing to highlight here is that while there are not formal tracks in the MAID program, and it is kind of a choose your own adventure type of program in terms of being able to select these electives. Here are some examples of engineering courses, data science courses, design courses that MAID students have taken in the past, and for specific subject matter arcs, environmental sciences, health, and education. So just to kind of give you an example of what sort of courses MAID students take while they're in the program.
And basically, here's the gang that's currently teaching in the program. It's split between the 2 institutions. So Paulo, Tino, Sue Jung, myself are all RISD professors, and Ian and Louise, Rich, Chucky, Monty, Elizabeth, and Griffin are on the Brown side. And they all have very distinct expertise. Paulo and Sue Jung are practicing industrial designers currently. Maybe Griffin, you can talk about the credentials of some of the Brown professors.
Yeah, it's Ian is a great example of that. That Brown is not entirely super technical, and RISD is not entirely creative. It's Ian is a an engineer, runs medical device companies, but also is formerly from IDEO, a very well-known design firm. So he brings kind of the best of kind of these both worlds to the studio courses. Similarly, Dr. Louise Manfredi's formal training is in both design and engineering, and brings both of those worlds together in the studio through research opportunities and TA-ships with MAID students. Chalky has an amazing industry CV in Viacom, MTV, works a lot with AI and software development now. Monty, game designer, runs game design boot camps, is a really great resource for digital design. Rich, I think we mentioned before. Elizabeth, likewise, AI, kind of the intersection of AI and ethics, and formerly from the from Harvard Berkman Klein Center. I think that about covers it.
In addition, also to our quite distinguished faculty, we're also partner with a number of organizations in the city and also nationally and internationally. And you can see from the list on the right, we've got current projects running at the two institutions with Hyundai, NASA, Hasbro, Expedia, et cetera. And some of the folks we've worked with in town include Groundworks Rhode Island, the Director of Sustainability at the City of Providence. So the program is engaged with the local community as well as some world-renowned design firms.
I can take this one. The our current profile, as we mentioned previously, we really prioritize having a wide range of academic backgrounds, professional backgrounds. Our current cohort, not only design and engineering, but finance, manufacturing, consulting, media, technology. Average age 25, 45% international students. Representing over 5 countries, or sorry, 5 countries. And our cohort size is currently 25 students.
And as you can see, this is where some of our students are coming from. We do hope that you've had some work experience before applying to the program. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's helpful. And here are some of the companies that the students have come from. Again, Warner Brothers, Google. I don't need to list these prominent names. Next slide, please. Griffin, I don't know if there's a note you want us to talk about here, but
no, it's people often
self-explanatory.
ask us where our students end up. There is again, we have a very wide range of backgrounds of students that enter the program, so they go in a wide range of directions. Human computer interaction is one that's very popular right now. UI UX is very popular right now. A number of students kind of go down the entrepreneurial path. There are channels to support that through Brown and RISD, including the Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship and the B Lab, which students from MAID have been accepted into every cohort that we have had, where they get to kind of incubate a project over the summer. but here's some examples of directions that students go. As I said, collaboration is the core of the program. A lot of these projects, or almost all these projects, are collaborative projects. Just to give you an example of the backgrounds that the collaborators have come from. That's the kind of the subtitle of these projects. I will let you read those, but this on the top left was a textiles recycled into building materials project. They submitted a paper for that project that was accepted, and they were able to present that poster in France. On the top left, a video game design project, an AI storybook project that kind of highlights the process to develop the book laid over the pictures, recycled foam insulation. These were all summer projects on the top. So these students really hit the ground running and were able to create some great deliverables. On the bottom row, we have this, I think, is one of my favorite projects from MADE, is a pair of glasses that identifies what you're trying to read and blocks out distractions. And the students that created this were fashion and human computer interaction background, and another student that had an architecture background. And I was really impressed by how far they were able to take this prototyping for the RISD grad show. Then bottom left was a solo project that was allowed plants to communicate wirelessly with each other using biosensors, mesh networked microcontrollers, and an LLM to let them send text messages to each other. Then we have a VR mindfulness game. These bottom three on the left were at the RISD grad show, and then on the bottom right was a collaboration that we did during the winter a few years ago with the city of Boston and the Museum of Science to visualize geospatial data from the city of Boston and tell stories about the future of data and communication.
Yeah, we've kind of touched upon this already, but I want to reinforce Griffin's, very few students working alone. They're really team-driven projects, just for the ambition and scale of the work. There are industry collaborations, regional collaborations, as we've already talked about. Industry collaborations include site visits, guest speakers, faculty coordinators, etc. So it really is about synergistic, meeting of minds between faculty, students, and industry.
Jonathan, one thing before we move on to the application process, could you go back one more slide?
Oh yeah, I should.
Yeah, I mentioned the RISD grad show a couple of times and haven't really described what it is. Could you provide a quick description?
So at the end of the year, basically as you graduate, your final project you have the opportunity to exhibit your final project with all the other RISD graduate students at the Providence Convention Center, which is sort of a big deal. We take over the building. We have expert curatorial teams. The MADE students have their own room, and it's an opportunity to showcase your work to the general public and to your peers and friends in other departments at both institutions. It's basically a highlight of the year for our graduating students, and it includes the MADE program as well. Thanks, Griffin.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, application process.
Awesome, thanks. I'll talk a little bit more about the application process. Just so folks know on the call, the program is, of course, joint between RISD and Brown. Brown hosts the application, so we're happy to share the application link to anybody who's interested. That being said, though, this is a high-level overview of everything that we're going to require as a part of the application to the design engineering program, as well as the dates and deadlines. So we have a priority application deadline, that's December 1st. We'll release those decisions in late January, so you'll find out whether or not you've been admitted by late January. And then we have a regular application deadline, January 15th, and we'll notify folks in early March. Important note about this program as well, this program starts in the summer. Like we've talked about, it's a one-year program, really intensive. So we start the program in July, early July specifically. Application requirements you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. We'll go in depth a little bit more about the application requirements on the next couple slides, but this is just an overview of what we're going to require as a part of the application to the program. Transcripts can be unofficial for the purposes of the application. If that helps you get your application in, especially by that priority deadline, then we would welcome you to submit unofficial transcripts, and then we would follow up asking for your official transcripts if you end up matriculating at Brown. So let's talk a little bit more about those application requirements. So I talked already about the unofficial transcripts. For folks on the call who are interested, or who it applies to for TOEFL and IELTS, we do waive the TOEFL and the IELTS for anybody who has or will have a degree from an institution where the sole language of instruction is English. Otherwise, we are going to require that as a part of our application process. You should be submitting transcripts from everywhere that you attended after secondary school as well. That's an important note. So if you transferred schools, just making sure that you're giving us all of those transcripts as a part of your application so that we can get an understanding of the grades that you've gotten in all of the classes that you've taken after high school. Letters of recommendation, we require 3 letters of recommendation. Make sure you're following those instructions on who should be submitting them. Folks who can speak to you, your candidacy, your goals as they pertain to the program. Make those requests sooner rather than later. That, early deadline is right around the corner. You have up until 2 weeks after the application deadline to submit any final materials. So letters of recommendation, test scores, things like that need to be in within 2 weeks of the deadline. You shouldn't wait to submit your application until you have all of those materials in. If you have them in, make sure that you're submitting them by the deadline, and then we'll give you those 2-week grace period to get everything else in. If you miss the deadline for materials by the early deadline, then we'll just switch your application to be part of the regular deadline, and then you'll have more time to get your materials in as well. We do need all 3 letters of recommendation in order for your application to be considered complete. Make sure you're asking folks who know you really well. Really, people should be able to say more about you than just this person did really well in my class. They should be able to talk about your membership of a classroom community, research, professional experience. They should be able to say more about you and your candidacy than just your grades. We also require a portfolio for the design engineering program. I won't go super in depth in the portfolio, but I will say for folks who are interested, we have a portfolio information session coming up in December. So we are going to cover the portfolio in depth, answer questions about the portfolio process. But you can see sort of what we're looking for the portfolio on the screen now. 7 to 10 pages PDF highlighting 3 to 4 projects. Portfolio should be submitted through the application portal, which will give you the opportunity to, as you move through the application. Our tips are pretty straightforward. Follow the instructions. Don't submit more than you need to. Don't submit less than you need to. Really follow the instructions as we lay them
7 to
out.
10.
Yes, exactly. 7 to 10 pages. Don't submit a 20-page portfolio. We're only going to
No.
look at the first 10 pages, right, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. It does, focus on 7 to 10 really excellent pages versus just sort of throwing everything at the wall and submitting it, because we're only going to be able to look at those first 10 pages just for equity in the application process. Personal statement, short answer questions. Make sure you're answering the prompt really specifically. Make sure you're talking specifically about design engineering, specifically about RISD and Brown as far as your interest in the program is concerned, your goals as they pertain to the program, where you see yourself professionally going with it. So that being said, I think that's all we have for slides to share. We'd love to start to answer some questions, though. You can always be in contact with us after the session. I'll put our contact information in the chat as well. But for now, I think we can go ahead and start to answer some questions. I see that there's some stuff going on in the chat.
So I've just been dropping some helpful links to what you've been talking about in the presentation into the chat. So that's what you've been seeing.
Thank you. I see one open question in the Q&A about the December 1st priority deadline, and a little bit more information about the priority deadline. So priority implies, you apply earlier, so we look at your application in a priority manner. So we'll look at your application first before we start to release decisions for the next round of applicants. I think specifically for a program like design engineering, where we can only take so many students, that's important to talk about. I'm not necessarily super concerned that we would fill the entire cohort out of our early applicants. However, that's important to note is like the program does have a cap on it. You will also get access to resources sooner, so you'll be a fully matriculated student at both institutions sooner. On my side at Brown, what that means is you get access to Brown University resources sooner. So especially for a program that starts in the summer and is residential, we want to make sure that we hit the ground running as soon as possible with housing. We do offer a limited amount. Thank you, Alicia. This is perfect timing. We do offer a limited amount of housing through Brown University, graduate housing. That's first come, first served. Priority is given to first year graduate students, either PhD or master's students. The sooner that you get on that wait list, the more likely it is that you'll have housing available to you and you'll be able to get off of the wait list. So that's sort of why I would apply in the priority deadline. That being said, totally understand that some folks can't get their application materials together. That's why we have that regular deadline.
Perfect. I do have some questions queued up just in case there was a lull in the questions, if that's okay.
That's great, Jennifer. Thank you.
Since this program is truly a hybrid program and students take courses at both spaces between Brown and RISD, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis for a typical student? In one day, are they going between classes on the Brown campus and the RISD campus? Is it one day of the week they're at Brown versus RISD?
Oh, that's really great to talk about because, the meshing of the schedules is something that the students have to be aware of. The maid studio is usually Monday, Wednesday. That's on purpose because RISD studios are usually Tuesday, Thursday. So we try to, sync the two programs as best we can so students can take advantages of other, down the hill, so to speak. I don't know, Griffin, if you want to chime in on that as well.
Yeah, the maid studio space is in the School of Engineering building. So your core maid studios will be at Brown. You're right down the hall from the Brown Design Workshop, which is, our maker space on Brown campus. And then kind of where you go for your electives totally depends on if you sign up for electives at Brown or RISD. We have students that do all of their electives on one or the other campus, and then some do a mix. So, but the campuses are directly adjacent to each other. You really don't know when you stepped across the line into RISD campus. So it's getting between the two is, it's probably a 10-15 minute walk from the School of Engineering building to the Industrial Design building, for example. Yeah. Jonathan, I think you're muted if you, I don't know if you're trying to speak.
No, I was being
okay. Yeah.
interrupted.
But yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Right, there does look like there's some more questions in the Q&A section right now. We have one person saying thank you for the information. For the projects in the portfolio, are there any examples or types of projects that you would be able to talk about, hoping to have a better understanding the depth of the projects you're looking for?
I think and we'll talk about this a lot in the portfolio session, info session. But I think the key thing is go more in depth in with fewer projects. I think we say in the guidelines on the website 3 to 4 projects. So that's 2 to 3 pages per project. So we're really looking for, we don't just want, the one, shiny picture or rendering of the final prototype. We want to, hear how you identified this problem, why it matters, how you ideated on the potential solutions, how you prototyped them, how you tested them, what the outcome was, what the realized impact of that was. Is this something that was turned into a product? Is this something that was shown at a conference? So just really tell the story of what the whole project is. I think that's the important part.
And be clear your contribution if it's teamwork, or if you had another collaborator. Be very clear your personal role in the project.
Yeah, and I think that there is kind of this, there is this thought of, if I can show projects that are entirely me versus projects I only did half of the work on because, I had a collaborator, that I'll choose the ones that were just me. We love to see collaborative projects. That is what we want to know who you are as a collaborator. We want to know that you're already trying to collaborate. So that's, definitely highlight those if you have them, but as Jonathan said, be clear about what, who did what, and be clear about if these, renderings or prototypes you're showing are functional, if they're looks like or works like prototypes. That's important to be clear about.
Great. All right, on to the next question. How much technical knowledge and skills is one expected to have, and is there training in using tools and technology?
It's hard to say, how much. It's very very difficult to give a concrete answer to that. I think, just be clear about what technical skills you do have. We're looking for people that have graduated with technical degrees, whether that be in a kind of a technical design field, or an engineering or life sciences field. Mainly, we definitely accept people who have different degrees, but they're demonstrating that they're pursuing those technical skills. There absolutely is the opportunity to learn technical skills while you are here. But the people who get the most out of the program do already have some expertise in one area or another, but nobody is going to have expertise in all areas, or why are you coming here then? So that's there's obviously the opportunity to learn, but having technical skills, whether in that can take a wide variety of forms, we definitely are looking for that.
In regards to elective credits, can people take additional elective credits that they have separate for personal interests? For example, printmaking class at RISD.
I'll speak to that. The answer is yes, but there's a big asterisk. And let's take printmaking, for example. That's in the fine arts division, and many of the RISD fine arts courses and some in the design division are reserved for majors. So it's tough, not impossible, but it has been tough to get made students into some of the fine arts like painting, printmaking, et cetera. But it does happen, and it all just depends on what seats are available. And frankly, that's my job, is to try to steer made students into courses that are available and can take. In the design division, it's a little bit easier. You're considered graduate students along with everybody else, so you have the same chances as a graduate student in any other RISD department to get into a course. But as many of you can probably guess, RISD is a craft and skill-based institution, so a lot of courses are reserved and blocked out for majors. And I just want to be upfront about that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Are there any workshop skills that will be taught through classes? Circuitry building, machine shop, etc.
We have the guy right here, Griffin.
Yeah, that is me. I absolutely lead workshops on technical skills in electronics prototyping, digital fabrication, so 3D printing, laser cutting. You know, we now have a fiber laser. We have a lot of tools. I encourage you to look on the Brown Design Workshop website to see the full list of tools that we have just right down the hall. That will change a little bit though. The Brown Design Workshop is being shifted around a bit this upcoming year as part of a renovation. But we absolutely do have opportunity to learn those tools. I focus on technical skills, but also kind of ways of thinking. You can learn, you can take workshops on the tools from the makerspace monitors. And I do lead kind of more advanced workshops on those things, but I kind of also talk more about design for manufacturing, how you can optimize your designs for, to go from one prototype to 1,000, 10,000 units, and kind of how to kind of frame all of these skills together, and kind of how to go from a breadboard to a higher, a more integrated prototype for electronics.
Jennifer, there's a question in the chat that I'd like to answer.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about research and TA opportunities available? And the answer is yes, they are available for both. MAID students are TAs in both Brown and RISD courses, I believe. And there are individual research projects run by faculty where MAID students can participate. And again, that's an ad hoc, who's doing what on campus. And you just needed to ask around, basically.
Perfect. And you just reminded me, in the chat, there's another question as well. Is it possible to share a link to the academic calendar for the program? This person's looking for more information on the number of required credits and the schedule throughout the 11 months.
Victoria, that should be on the website, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I'll go and find a link to it and I'll drop it in the chat while you folks are still.
Great.
This is a great question. What is the difference? They're all great questions. But what's the difference between RISD's industrial design program versus the MAID program? This person sees, as you had mentioned in the presentation, there's a lot of faculty that overlap between the two.
Kind of a hard, they're different. MAID is a very intense, and as we've tried to describe, intense one-year grad program. Collaborative in nature, sharpen your skills, industry involvement. The industrial design process, the industrial design program happens to be very popular because there's so many opportunities to do other things like furniture, and lots of different disciplines are folded under industrial design. I don't know, Griffin, if you want to expand on that. I don't know if that's a very
I think
answer,
that I think that if your goal, if you're applying to MAID and your goal is to, exclusively, work on industrial design, then applying to an industrial design program is absolutely the direction to go. I think that kind of one of the core, goals of the MAID program is to develop shared languages. And I think that, examples of projects that we've seen are, and you'll encounter this as an industrial designer where you create the form of a product, and then you hand that off to a mechanical engineer who kind of crosses it out and makes changes, and you're going to continue to butt heads on these going back and forth on these designs. And MAID is a place where both of you, a mechanical engineer and an industrial designer, can collaborate on a project from day one and both learn about manufacturing engineering, and you know, and develop this, you know, this collaborative, you know, partnership, where you can exchange skills. You know, it's a very, you know, tight-knit cohort, and everybody is learning from each other. And, you know, we've had, you know, aerospace engineers, we've had, you know, UI, UX designers, a lot of industrial designers, but the goal for this program is to collaborate and learn from, you know, a variety of disciplines. You know, so if you're, you know, if you're looking exclusively to work on industrial design and work alone, then absolutely apply to an industrial design program. But this is but yeah, no, that's it's really the collaboration and the interdisciplinary nature is what sets it apart.
Yeah.
That's great. You've mentioned this teams often throughout the presentation. How do these teams typically form? And what does a typical collaborative project look like?
Yeah, you know, in the beginning of the cohort, you'll probably get assigned a team, and you know, and when I'm leading, you know, workshops and modules, I intentionally mix it up, make sure everybody gets to know each other. We also do kind of, you know, we lead peer-led workshops, so everybody learns a bit about everybody else's skill base. But as you go on in the, you know, through the cycle, you know, there might be guidelines where it's like, you know, it's choose your own team, but one person, you know, should be kind of have a more of a design background, somebody should have more of an engineering background, you know, and that's, you know, right now in the fall it's 2-person teams. During the winter we're doing 3 to 4-person teams. In the spring it's going to be a bit more choose your own adventure. But the goal is to highlight that, you know, if you want to go far, go together. And, you know, these you know, these group projects that identify people with complementary skills really create incredible projects by the time they're displaying in the grad show. In terms of what those projects look like, definitely look at the RISD grad show link that has been posted in the chat, I believe by Jennifer. Thank you very much. That's, you know, and we highlighted some of the projects that were in the grad show a bit previously, but this shows all of them. So definitely check that out for kind of examples of what these projects look like.
Great. How does advising work between the two institutions? Do students have access to mentors on both sides?
I believe, well, yes. So myself, I'm the co-director for RISD. Rich Morales is the co-director for Brown, and we are sort of the Uber advisors in terms of course selections and charting a path. But of course, the faculty are available during, you know, during regular session for conversations as well.
Perfect. Since we had, go ahead.
Sorry, Victoria, there's not any other advisors beyond us available at Brown, is there?
So we have some like career and professional development advising. So I guess it depends on the type of advising we're talking about. But at Brown, we have master's specific career and professional development advising, as well as like student affairs services. So like really layers of support at both institutions, depending on exactly what we're talking about.
Thanks.
Perfect. You've talked about some of the different projects that students have worked on. Can you walk us through a recent project that illustrates the program's approach in design engineering?
I might have a prop. Let me see if I can pull. I don't know how it's going to work on.
Oh, very cool.
This was oh yeah, this is not going to go well. Let me see if I can remove my my background. There we go. So this is a project that was displayed in the grad show last year. This was I believe a software engineer, computer science student, and an industrial designer. Formerly came from Toyota, and this is a kind of a very simple, cheap version of a tool that's available in industry that is incredibly expensive and large, kind of desktop mounted. But this kind of creates a portable texture scanner that you kind of add your phone in here, and you can remove it. It uses custom circuit boards, pogo pins, a microcontroller, and an app that kind of controls your camera. Takes 8 pictures with different lighting angles and then stitches them together into a 3D texture that can be imported into software for game development, or directly 3D printed. I think this just kind of highlights the combination of design and engineering, but more importantly, collaboration and iteration. It was really awesome to see how many iterations these students went through to get to this point. Not only that, to define the problem that they were trying to address, and take a $20,000 industrial tool and replicate that as a less than $100 3D printed and custom electronic prototype. And kind of not only that, you can look at that on the RISD grad show website of kind of the design communication of that, where they developed the prototype, but then they developed the assets around that and the presentation of it, where it can stand on its own and it can act as an interface where it directly communicates its intentions without the designer being present. So I think that this is a really great example of kind of encapsulating the full, core studio, pathway, getting to this kind of final project.
Very cool. Thank you. I just put the project name and the link to it from the thesis show
Oh, great.
into the chat.
Yes, Octago.
There is another question in the Q&A. Are there any course syllabus or outlines you can share for the core studio courses?
Victoria, do you know if any of the course descriptions are available, if to non-students? I'm not sure if that is if that's possible.
They might be available through courses at Brown. We don't necessarily have them separated out through like core studio courses, but if folks want to take a look at the Brown course catalog, I can share that.
Yeah, and I think on our website there's also pretty detailed description of the courses.
I did add the
core
trajectories
courses
link in the chat. So through there, folks can also see both the RISD and the Brown course catalog, as well as like the different trajectories that we outlined for students.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question for you. Are there opportunities to engage with Brown or RISD research labs, centers, or faculty-led initiatives?
Yes. Yes, I think I touched on that before, but there are, again, through the Nature Lab, through TAing for professors, and there's a number of research initiatives going on at any time at RISD and at Brown, those opportunities do exist.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of our students right now are research assistants and TAs for, a range of professors. So I can confirm that is possible, and it is happening right now.
Perfect. And I know this program is still fairly young, but what are some of the outcomes that recent graduates have gone on and pursued since completing this degree?
We've had students that go into, I mentioned this a bit earlier, but they've gone into design firms, have gone into mechanical engineering roles in both medical device companies, but also mechanical engineers in design firms. We've had a number of students that have pursued entrepreneurship. We have a student in Dassault Systems, a student in Disney Imagineering. We have, I don't know, those are just a few that I can think of. A couple of students are now pursuing PhDs. I think both the ones I've stayed in touch with have been in human-computer interaction. One at Oxford, which is really exciting. Those are just a few that I can think of students that I've stayed in touch with.
Perfect, great, thank you. And I also just dropped a link for those that are, torn between an MID or the MEAD program. Our Career Center at RISD does have a list of where people have gone on to work in the industrial design field. So I'm assuming there's some overlap there as well.
Absolutely.
We have another question here. What does the structure of the core studio courses look like? Are there any lecture type courses that have a certain number of hours per week?
Could you say that one more time?
Yep. What does the structure of the core studio courses look like?
Oh, yeah. So the core studio we're doing right now is 4 hours twice a week during the summer, and so that'll be the core studio for the fall and the spring. This is essentially a double studio course. So it's pretty intensive. That is not all lectures. That is, maybe a lecture or a guest speaker or a workshop, and then time to work on a project where the instructors will be walking around providing support. During the summer, there is, I believe it was 3 to 4 times a week. And no, it's 3 times a week for the summer course. And that was I don't remember exactly how many hours, but that was a full day, each day. And then, one day, 1 5-hour session a day for the seminar. Then in January, it'll be 4 days, I believe 4 days a week, 5 hours each for 2 weeks. And that, so it is intensive in terms of the course studios. If you're coming from a design background, you are familiar with the structure of a design, course where, it is a longer session. One thing I do want to add is that, about my previous response is, in looking for jobs, one thing that we found is that the role of design engineer is coming up more and more as students are pursuing jobs. And, employers are absolutely recognizing the benefit of having a interdisciplinary lens, and are looking for people that can, speak a variety of languages in terms of technical skills. So that is something that is a role that you can search for and does exist.
That's great. Thank you, Griffin. And we have one more question that came into the chat. This person has an art and design background, but haven't taken any college level engineering, math, or physics classes. Are those things that they should take? Should they have that background foundation in order to be prepared for this program?
I don't think, in terms of like math or physics, I don't really think that, I would say, we definitely look at, at those, at the breakdown of your transcript, but if you have a strong design background, then we'll absolutely, not, we understand that, and we're not looking for you to, have 400 level, physics courses as well. But I would say if you have technical skills that you can demonstrate through your portfolio, the then I would definitely highlight them, even if they aren't reflected in your transcript.
Great.
Jonathan, would you add anything to that?
I would agree. I don't, we're looking for, our job during the admission process is to basically find a collaborative cohort with a range of experiences and skills. So I don't think not having those courses would not be a detriment, because your strength may be in design.
Great. All right, we have a few minutes left. If there aren't any more questions, leaving that out there, any more questions? This is your last chance. But if not, I think we're at the end of the road for this presentation. So thank you. I want to thank everybody from Brown and RISD for being here, Victoria, Griffin, and Jonathan. I appreciate you taking the time to be part of the online open house for graduate study. For those who are torn between the MID program or the MAID program, attend the industrial design program with Paolo Cordini. He's the graduate program director on the RISD side. That session will be held on Wednesday, November 19th at 12 p.m. You can find that registration on the open house portal as well. But with that, if anybody has any questions, Victoria, I think they can email. Is there a specific email people can be directed to?
I'm going to add my email address to the chat, and folks can just email me directly, and I'm happy to triage to anybody on the call.
Perfect. And as usual, if anybody emails admissions at RISD with questions on MAID, I'll direct them over to your way, Victoria. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.